are local.
The international community is observing every
Just finished taking
When the main market is in chaos, people are...
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye.
Aye. We have taken the vote by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Welcome back, and now to the quote for the day again. Foreign policy isn't something that is great and big. It's common sense and humanity as it applies to my affairs and yours. And of course, we go straight to what we shall be discussing in a few minutes. In a bid to reshape Nigeria's internal policy framework and position the country as a hub for foreign investment, the Director General of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council, PEC, Prince Adeyemi, has said that economic reforms must be matched with legislative support to ensure sustainable growth. Foreign investment plays a pivotal role in shaping Nigeria's economic landscape. As one of Africa's most populous nations, Nigeria has consistently attracted foreign capital driven by its abundant natural resources, strategic location, and burgeoning consumer market. Today, we shall be looking at Nigeria and foreign investment policy.
Okay, welcome back. Our guest is in the studio to join us, have the conversation on Nigeria and foreign investment policy. Our guest is Dr. Emeka Offor, who is a global thought leader. Good evening, Dr. Emeka.
Good evening.
Oh,
nice to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's dive right into the conversation. Lily, do you want to take the lead?
Yeah. Just to open our mind for those that may be wondering what this foreign investment policy is about. Just for a layman, what should we be looking at for when we talk about foreign investment policy?
Thank you so much for inviting me today. So when we talk about foreign investment policy, we are looking at the instruments put in place by a government or a country or an economy to regulate the movement or the inflow or outflow of foreign investments. So in this particular case, the country may decide to encourage some sectors and invite foreign investors to invest in some sectors in a particular country. Or they may also put in place regulations that will restrict investments. When a country does this, they focus on achieving several things. One is to attract and retain investments in their own country. The second thing they try to do is to achieve economic development, to create jobs. They may also decide to develop their infrastructure and attract investment into those sectors to be able to achieve what they call their priority areas. The country may also decide to restrict investments through its foreign investment policy by saying we don't want anybody, we don't want any person, we don't want any company to invest in a particular sector, what the country calls a negative list. So there is a list of the sectors that they want investments to be attracted and retained in the country. Then there is also what they call the negative list, which includes investments that they don't want foreigners or even citizens of their country to invest in. So in a nutshell, when you talk about foreign investment policy, there are two arms to it. The first one is what we call foreign direct investment, FDI. That is when somebody or an individual or a company from another country decides to invest in another country. In that case, let's say somebody or a company that is from the USA or from the UK decides to come to Nigeria and invest. So that is foreign direct investment, and it's usually long term. They have to talk about investing in the real sector. You talk about the manufacturing industries and so on and so forth. The second aspect is the foreign portfolio investment. That is usually seen as quick money. In that case, somebody that is in, maybe let me use the same example, the United States of America or the United Kingdom, decides to invest in shares, in stocks, in bonds. So that's the foreign portfolio investment. It's like somebody coming into a country with portfolio, buys something, put it up for portfolio, and then moves out of the country. But for foreign direct investment, it's usually long term, because the person will have to buy land, build factory, and it's not easy to move it out of the country. But for the foreign portfolio investment, you can just tell your stockbroker, sell my shares, and the money is gone.
Okay.
So a country's foreign policy aims to regulate the inflow and outflow of foreign investments in their country.
Okay, looking at Nigeria's foreign policy, investment policy, do you think it's just, more attractive on paper than in practice?
So several things affect the attraction and retention of foreign investments. For Nigeria, Nigeria has one of the most attractive reasons or indicators why you should invest in Nigeria. There are so many. I can give you like 25 reasons why Nigeria is attractive. But when you invest or you want to invest in another country, there are always challenges. There are issues to cross. So my advice is that the government or Nigerians should be intentional about attracting investments into their country. So in terms of what you call, whether it's more attractive on paper, that paper is what they call the policy. And then the implementation of the policy is key and central to well, if there's no policy, you cannot implement it. That's what I'm trying to say. So if there's a policy, that's a starting point. You must have the policy, then you put in place institutions that will drive the process of implementing those policies. There are challenges with doing business in Nigeria, just like there are challenges with doing business in any country, whether developed, underdeveloped, or not developed at all. There are challenges with doing business in any country. So for your own country, for Nigeria, what we need to do is to make it easier for investors to come and invest in our country. And we have to be intentional about attracting investments.
All right, so let's look at insecurity in the country. To what extent does insecurity discourage foreign investments in Nigeria?
A lot. When investors want to invest in a particular country, they usually start with a long list. For instance, a German investor will say, I want to invest. The first question is, where do you invest? They'll say, okay, let's focus on Africa. We want to invest in Africa. Which country in Africa? There are 54, 55 countries in Africa. Which one? Then they'll begin to look at, to narrow it down to what they call a short list, right? And then after the short list, they will now decide on which country to invest. For them to take that decision, to say, of all the 54 countries in Africa, I want to invest in Nigeria, they would have gone through a diligent process. And that process includes what you just mentioned, security. How secure, how safe is my investment in that country? Can I take it out anytime I want to? Can I get the returns I expect? So insecurity is central to their decision. But there are also other things, because you can manage insecurity. There are other things investors look at when they want to invest in a particular location. And security is central to one of them. The major thing that investors look out for include things like information, access to markets, and then ability to remit their funds. Okay, so when you talk about insecurity in a place like Nigeria, Nigerians are living in their country, so they have their way of managing insecurity. So an investor that comes into Nigeria will also have to find their way to manage the insecurity. So as long as you can manage the situation, an investor may decide to come. But it will also restrict the type of investors that will come. So if you do not have control over managing that insecurity, you don't know how to manage, you don't know how to go about it, then the investor will not come.
Okay. Okay, so should Nigeria really prioritize, domestic investments before trying to seek foreign capital investors due to the so many situations that we have in Nigeria that could not really encourage foreign investments?
Yes, it is usually advised to prioritize local industrialization. What we call domestic direct investment. The other one is foreign direct investment.
Okay.
This is now domestic direct investment. If you want to get an investment into a country and you're a foreigner, one of the things you ask yourself is how is that sector, how is that industry performing in that country? Who are the key players in that economy? So if Nigerians are not investing in their own country, how do you expect outsiders to invest in that country? Basically, Nigerians should be ambassadors. We have done it, we know how it works, and people can look at you. I like a statement that Aliko Dangote made. He said that he did not invest outside Africa, he started by investing in Nigeria. And because he couldn't tell his friends, his fellow billionaires, to come and invest in Nigeria if he is not investing in Nigeria. So when you've done it yourself, you can now stand and say, yes, I have done it. Come and invest in Nigeria.
All right, so with the challenges Nigerians are facing now, Nigeria as a country, the challenges of insecurity, poor electricity, and of course, bad roads. Even sometime last year, there are some foreign companies that have left due to these reasons. The companies like GSK and the likes. With all of this, do you see Nigeria still having the possibility of retaining the foreign companies we have currently, or possibly having more?
Yes, Nigeria needs to be intentional, like I said before, about attracting investors and then retaining those investors. Divestment is common in every economy. So when you say you're attracting investment from one country to another, it means in effect, and most of the time, that company is moving its investments from their own country or from whichever country they've invested in. If they are no longer seeing what they were looking at or what made them to invest in that country, they will move. So it is a common thing. It's like buying and selling. Okay, so Nigeria has work to do to retain investors, and it's important that we take it serious because investments help to grow the economy significantly.
All right then. So how transparent are these policies in Nigeria in order to attract foreign investors? Is it also something that they would see and like to pull through in Nigeria?
One of the key things that investors look at, you remember I mentioned access to information, and that investors have also complained that they face bureaucratic bottlenecks. There are situations where policies come up and then the next thing the new government comes in and the policies change. So investors, especially those that play in the foreign direct investment sector or segment, they want to look at the long term. They take their decisions, they borrow funds to be able to invest, and they need to see the long picture. They want to be sure that the system is transparent. They want to be sure that their investment is protected. They want to see transparency and such things. So if they are not in place, they will really discourage investors.
So when disputes arises, is it friendly with these foreign investors?
So investors, like I mentioned, they want to be sure that their investments are safe and secure, and that also includes settlement of disputes.
Okay.
And then there are mechanisms for settling disputes, and there are instruments for doing that. One of them is ICSID, that's the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes. So it's a convention that was set up, I think, around 1966, which protects investors. Because if I invest in your country and I have an issue with somebody in your country, where will I take it to? Or with the host government, where will I take it to? It may be assumed that the legislature in that, no, not the legislature, the judiciary in that country will dance to the tune of the government, of their government. So how do you settle an issue between a foreign investor and the state? So in that case, you have to take it outside to a neutral place, and that's why you have that ICSID convention, International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes. So there are another thing that investors do is to, between countries, to sign what they call bilateral investment treaties. So I'm coming from Germany, for example, and I want to invest in Nigeria. The government of Nigeria and the government of Germany will have to sign a bilateral treaty that will say, okay, investors that are coming from Germany to Nigeria, I want you to treat them very well. And you say, these are the things I want to see in that agreement. And so the two countries will sign agreement. So if there is a case, a problem, or a dispute in that country, then they'll bring up the agreement they signed, and that's what they will use to do arbitration or conciliation and settlement.
All right, so are there potential risks, associated with foreign investment in Nigeria? Because in as much as we know that investments, they're all good thing, right? It brings in the money and gives employment, job employment, and what have you. Are there potential risks one should look out for, even while having foreign investments?
There are potential risks. In fact, in everything we do in life, there are risks. One of the risks that you find in attracting foreign investment, there are many of them really, but we need to manage them. When you attract an investment from a country and you are not sure of the quality of the investment you are attracting, it could mean that they are just dumping inferior goods and producing inferior goods into in your country. So organizations like Standard Organization of Nigeria, will have to look into the kind of goods that come into Nigeria, whether they are produced in Nigeria. NAFDAC is another agency that needs to work on strengthening their legislation and rather their regulations. And also another thing that happens is that if you are not very careful, the investors will come in because they may require to come in with some of with workers from their country. They will tell you they are doing transfer of technology. So they may come into Nigeria with their citizens. They will come in with foreigners and then they will take over the job market. And that's why foreign investment policies are important. You can say, okay, if you are bringing investment into Nigeria, for example, 70% should be Nigerian workers.
Okay.
So if you allow them, they may decide to bring 100% of their citizens into your country. What that does is that it reduces the job that's available to your citizens. Yeah. And then some of them may also go into low-level jobs. So you have to use your policies to regulate it. For instance, there's no need for foreign investors to come and be cutting people's hair, for example. So those kind of things should be restricted.
Okay, so let's look at CBN policy and how does it really affect the foreign investors' confidence?
The Central Bank of Nigeria regulates foreign exchange per se, monetary policy guidelines, foreign exchange provisions, miscellaneous provisions. So they restrict and manage capital importation, and they also control the payment of dividends and so on. So the policies or regulations put in place by the Central Bank of Nigeria can encourage or discourage investments into the country. But most central banks of Nigeria, most central banks are more interested in maintaining stability in the country, and that's why they try to, as much as possible, to put in place policies that will protect the country, their states, their economy, as well as being friendly to investors.
Okay, would you say Nigeria is overly, dependent on oil-related investments to the detriment? Yes, oil-related investment to the detriment of other sectors. Are we really taking advantage of other sectors?
So Nigeria recently rebased its economy, its GDP. I think that was this week, using a baseline of 2019. The last time it was done was in 2014. They rebased the economy. They did it last week, or I think it was on Monday or so, that Nigeria rebased its GDP. The essence of doing that is to create a structure to better understand which sector contributes to the economy, and then to determine the structure and the size of the economy. So that rebasing clearly shows that Nigeria's economy has been diversified. In fact, the percentage provided by the oil and gas is very minimal as we speak.
Minimal.
Yeah. For instance, services takes the large chunk, followed by agriculture, followed by manufacturing, and then so I've already mentioned first three, and oil and gas is not part of it. But the bulk of government revenue comes from oil and gas. So that's why at times people think that the economy is not diversified, but Nigeria's economy is truly, truly diversified. Services control close to 50% of Nigeria's GDP.
All right. Now, there's a popular saying that ABBA, they are the China of Nigeria.
Of course.
Because there are some brands you see, they are so good, so well done. But people are still wondering, why haven't we have the government, talking about foreign investment, invite these foreigners to come invest with these people, create a local, not local, just create a plant, create an industry, create a platform whereby they can bring in machines that are advanced, that these residents, these about people in quote, can learn from. And maybe it's just like apprentice with the way Igbo people do. Just like, let's say a 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years, the foreign people can be doing the production and everything. They will be seeing what they are doing, and with time they go back and they take over. It becomes our property and our own. Why don't we have such foreign investment?
So that's where foreign investment policy will help. Investors, if left on their own, especially foreign investors, and indeed every investor, first of all looks at return on investment, profit.
Yeah.
How do I'm putting in this kind of capital into the economy? How do I get it back? And also bear in mind that some of these investors, they have to borrow the money from the bank or lending institution. So they're also paying interest, and then they also have obligations to return the funds. So what they normally do is that their prime concern is return on investment, profit. It's now regulation or policy that we use to say, okay, if you are getting this, you have to do this, for example, for the host economy. You have to come into what we call priority sectors. So government will say, we want investors in this sector. We want investors to come and support our manufacturers.
Yeah.
Then do transfer of technology, upgrade their skills. And that's one of the advantages of foreign direct investment, because you're attracting foreign direct investment from somebody who has established himself or themselves in their own country. They've done it so well that they can now replicate it in other economies.
Yeah.
So when they come, they're coming in with machinery, they're coming in with expertise, they're coming in with a team, and which is expected as part of the conditions for granting them maybe tax waivers. Government might say, okay, if you do that for our traders, we'll grant you a tax waiver. You don't pay tax for the next 3 or 5 years. So they give them what is called pioneer status incentive, or priority sector incentive, as it's now called in the new tax laws that was just signed by the president. So we say, government will now say, we want this sector to grow. We want to achieve this kind of objective that we want, and they use foreign investment policy to direct and guide towards that get it sorted out. So that looks about that policy that we mentioned, investment policy, and also the will of the government to implement it.
So how should the federal government or the governments in general do more to protect local businesses in order not to be overrun by foreign businesses?
So it's a balance. It's a balance. The most foreign investment policies, most policies that a government puts in place tries to protect both local and foreign investors. Nigeria foreign investment policy protects both foreign investors and local domestic investors. There is majorly in most of the instruments, there's no favoritism. For instance, once you register, one of the requirements is that you register a company in Nigeria. So once you register the company in Nigeria, it becomes a Nigerian company. So the law protects them equally. Whatever is available for local investors is also available for foreign investors.
All right. So as a global thought leader, from the angle of foreign investment policy, that of Nigeria and to other foreign countries, would you say Nigeria is fair with their policies or creative that will bring more investment to Nigeria?
Nigeria needs to. So one thing about attracting investments and retaining investments, especially attracting investment, is that investors they want to be courted. They want you to talk to them, they want you to give them incentives, they want you to convince them that your country is better than any other country. And it has to be a continuous process. If they come in and they are no longer getting what attracted them into the country, they will divest or they will leave your country and go to another country. So that's what usually happens. So Nigeria's investment policy is domiciled is not domiciled in one document really. It's domiciled in several documents. But the principal document guiding Nigeria's investment policy is the NIPC Act of 1995 as amended. You also have the Foreign Exchange Policy Act, as the Miscellaneous and Provisions Act, that controls the use of foreign exchange in Nigeria. Then you have other sectoral regulations that also control where to invest, how to invest, the incentives that you get by investing, and then what the government needs to do for you. And then, but most of the time, every government, and that is what Nigeria needs to do, is to ensure that they balance investor obligation and rights. So what is expected from you as an investor and then what the government is giving you, there must be a balance.
Okay. So looking at our tax reform policy and also knowing that you are the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, how has this affected, or rather how is it going to affect foreign investment coming into Nigeria?
One of the things that guided the work done by the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform was to improve the environment for businesses. Before now, we used to have about 75 taxes and levies that investors pay. Some of them are by the state, some of them are by non-state actors. So it makes doing business in Nigeria difficult and extremely expensive. So one of the things we did was to look at them and say, well, let's reduce them from 75 to single digit, so that instead of paying 75 taxes and levies, we reduce it to less than 10.
Okay.
And then we say, instead of everybody trying to collect, every agency of the government trying to come and collect taxes and levies, let it be handled by the Nigeria Revenue Service. And that's why we had that second act, the Nigeria Revenue Service Act, instead of the former FIRS that we had. So the idea behind it is to make it seamless, to make it easier for investors to do business in Nigeria. If they want to pay taxes, let them pay it seamlessly, let them not be distracted, so that they can focus on their core business of being productive.
All right, then looking at corruption is a major challenge, even if these policies are set in place. Corrupted people in charge could still maneuver and make it look like it has not been, adjusted. Are there any team that are monitoring, the process, the reforms that have been made to be sure that everything is working accordingly as planned?
So amendments in acts could help. Corruption is a major drawback for investors. You talked about transparency.
Yeah.
The investors want to be sure that they will be able to go through the process. There are certain things that some people can do in some clients, but they cannot do them in some other clients. So that's the key issue. Corruption is key, but the government has put in place a lot of measures to curtail corruption.
Okay then. Now let's also look at Nigerian businesses. In as much as we are concerned about foreign investment, do you think the atmosphere, being a Nigerian business person, is it fair for the Nigerian business looking at low power supply and of course insecurities and also bad road? Some products can be on the road for like 2-3 days, or they've been on the road for 1 day. And fuel, that also is part of it. There are different challenges that a typical Nigerian face, to do business in Nigeria. In as much as we are concerned with the foreign investment, how well are we taking care of our local investments?
Oh, that's a very tough question. We need to take care of our domestic investors. We also need to take care of the foreign investors. Both contribute to creating jobs, creating wealth, growing the economy, and then ensuring that we get goods and services. When they produce in Nigeria, it means that there will be import substitution. We won't have to import what they have produced in Nigeria. It also means that we will conserve our foreign exchange. We won't have to use the one that we have produced or generated, the revenue, the forex that we have generated, to go and import things that we can produce in Nigeria. So government owes both the local and foreign investors the duty to ensure that we have, that they are protected and that the environment encourages them to even grow and expand and employ more people, so that Nigeria will be a safer and more vibrant place for all of us.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so this is how far we can go on this part of the interview. Of course, in case you just joined us, we're looking at Nigeria foreign investment policy, and our guest for today has been Dr. Emeka Ofor, a global thought leader that has done justice. Thank you so much, Dr. Emeka, for joining us.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
All right, then we'll be jumping off for a short break. Please stay with us as we'll be right back in no time.
We are local.
The international community is observing every
Why the main market is in chaos. People are
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye.
We have taken the vote by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
With a population of about 36 million people, the Southeast is awash with stories. Every day on Southeast News, we tell the peculiar story of the Southeast and her people.
Our Southeast should be the Silicon Valley of Nigeria.
Their successes, achievements, and daily challenges. Do you have a Southeast story to share? community achievements and challenges, completed and uncompleted projects, bad roads, water scarcity, erosion, flooding, insecurity, or even disagreements. Bring it on to Southeast News. On Southeast News, no story is too big or too small. Southeast News. Let's tell our story. Showing on Signature TV every weekday at 4 p.m. WAT, 1600 hours GMT.